The day Chloe cheated, she cried, saying, "Ethan, you never loved me," and yet I was supposedly her one true love. But after we married, Chloe became cold, insisted on separate rooms, and often brushed me off. On my birthday, I saw her kissing another man. I turned to leave, but she turned around and blamed me for being a stand-in. I discovered Marcus' secret in the 5th year of our marriage. The birthday celebration was set at the estate. I walked up to Marcus, holding my cocktail dress, and asked for his opinion on it. Marcus had a faint smile on his face, texting someone. Hearing me, he looked up at me. "Pink doesn't suit you. Don't wear it again." His words practically froze me in place, and a suffocating pain welled up in my heart. I was 7 years older than Marcus, and no longer young, no matter how much I tried to maintain myself. Fine lines inevitably appeared under my eyes, and my once full and fresh body was gradually losing its firmness. I don't know when it started, but Marcus and I had become sleeping in separate beds. Even when I wanted a goodnight kiss, Marcus would impatiently turn his head away. But the Marcus of the past was never like that. The old Marcus loved me. His entire world revolved around me. He would gently praise my appearance, and drive all over Metropolis City just so I could have a bite of delicious gourmet pastries. I tightly clenched my hands, looking at Marcus' teasing expression, and a sudden wave of panic swept over me. I struggled to part my lips, wanting to ask Marcus, to ask him if he still loved me. Before I could speak, Marcus stood up, ready to leave the bedroom. "The company has an impromptu meeting. I can't be with you for your birthday celebration this year." I gripped the edge of Marcus' sleeve. He brushed my hand away, his voice tinged with impatience. "Can't you be more understanding? 3 years ago, Marcus would have cancelled all his meetings to celebrate my birthday with me. But 3 years later, he brushed my hand away, telling me to be more understanding." I stared blankly at Marcus' impatient expression. After a moment, he sighed and reached out to pat my head. "I'll be back to be with you after the meeting." I silently watched Marcus retreating back, gently lowering my eyelashes. In the past, I used to ask Marcus strange questions. I once tugged on his sleeve and asked him, "If I turned into a caterpillar, would you still love me? If I became a tiger, would you still love me?" Every time, Marcus would gaze at me tenderly, and assure me that no matter what I became, he would love me. Back then, I was certain Marcus loved me, but now, I no longer dared to ask Marcus if he still loved me. The birthday celebration was cancelled. I stared blankly at the cake on the table. In that moment, I suddenly longed for someone to be with me, but to be with Marcus. I had severed ties with my family. My parents no longer wanted to see me. After marriage, Marcus kept me in a villa, where I quit my job, and became a full-time housewife. My old friends rarely kept in touch. Now, besides Marcus, I couldn't find anyone to be with me. With trembling eyelashes, I inserted the candles into the cake, and whispered a prayer in my heart. "May my parents be healthy, Julian live forever, and Marcus prosper." Finally, happy, Grace. After blowing out the candles in one breath, I wiped away my tears, haphazardly scooped a spoonful of cream into my mouth. The cream was too sweet, so sweet it left a bitter taste on my tongue. After we married, Marcus gave me an additional credit card, into which he would deposit money regularly each month. I had earned a lot from investments and financial management before marriage, so I had never used the card Marcus gave me. Today, I decided to use this card to treat myself to a handbag, considering it Marcus' birthday gift to me. Since the driver was on vacation, I had to take a taxi to the mall myself. After paying the fare and preparing to get out, a familiar black Bentley suddenly stopped a few meters away. The car door opened, and Marcus stepped out, a faint smile gracing his lips. I blinked my eyelashes. Could it be that Marcus was trying to trick me with the impromptu meeting, to secretly buy me a birthday gift? Marcus had coaxed me like this before. Back then, I was engrossed in the disappointment of Marcus not being able to be with me, burying my head and crying. Marcus appeared with flowers and gifts, gently wiping away the tear stains on my cheeks, saying he just wanted to give me a surprise. I choked back tears, and made him promise never to trick me like that again. At that time, Marcus had agreed with eyes full of tenderness, but now he was using the same old trick again. I wrinkled my nose and made a face at Marcus through the car window, just as I was about to lower the window to tell him I had seen through his trick. A young, delicate girl threw herself into Marcus' arms, complaining in a sweet, petulant voice, "Do you know how long I've been waiting for you? Marcus' eyes softened as he leaned close to the girl's ear. Whispering something that made her blush, she lightly patted his chest, saying, "Can't you be serious?" Marcus raised an eyebrow, took the girl's wrist, and lowered his head to press a lingering kiss on her forehead. "I'll always be with you." The two embraced deeply, looking like a loving couple in the sunset. Marcus had said the same words to me when I was 25. Julian's surgery had failed. In the middle of the night, I wandered aimlessly through the streets alone. Marcus draped his jacket over me, silently following behind me, accompanying me for half a block. It wasn't until I had nowhere left to go that he reached out, pulled me into his arms, and said in an exceptionally gentle voice, "Grace, I'll always be with you." Marcus was 18 that year, and his youthful emotions were fervent and sincere. If I resisted, he would relentlessly kiss me, forcefully filling my life with an almost overbearing presence. A light rain began to fall in the evening. When arrived home, I was standing in front of the mirror, examining every inch of my facial skin and texture. My eyes were bright, my skin fair, my lips a vibrant red, but age was unforgiving. I clearly sensed that I was no longer young, having lost a part of my vibrant self. My whole being seemed like a still, lifeless lake. A warm, large hand rested on my waist. Marcus leaned down and held me close, his voice filled with surprise. "Why are you crying?" I lowered my eyelashes, my voice calm. I poked my eye while removing my makeup. Marcus chuckled softly, turned me around, and carefully examined my face. His thumb gently rubbed my eyelid. "Still so careless," he murmured, feeling the warmth on my eyelid. I looked at Marcus through tear-filled eyes, and calmly asked him, "Do you still love me?" The warmth on my eyelid suddenly pulled away. Marcus leaned against the doorframe, his eyes calm as he looked at me. "Why do you ask?" I stubbornly clutched the edge of Marcus' sleeve, looking at him through tear-filled eyes. After a while, he finally sighed, wiping away the tear streaks on my face. He amusingly carried me out of the bathroom. "Is such a grown-up, yet you still need to be coaxed like a little girl before going to sleep." Marcus gathered my hair and put a necklace on me, his voice calm, happy. "Grace." I tightly clenched my hands, restraining my emotions, and asked Marcus in a calm voice, "The meeting today lasted a long time. Did everything go smoothly?" Marcus was silent for a moment before calmly murmuring, "Millimeters HM." I silently stared at the person beside me. Marcus turned over, his back to me. "It's late, go to sleep." I lay awake all night, eyes open. Only after confirming Marcus was in a deep sleep did I stiffly sit up, take Marcus' phone from the nightstand, and unlock it to look through. Long ago, Marcus had registered my fingerprint on his phone. We had dated for 2 years and been married for 5. I had complete trust in Marcus and had never checked his phone. Perhaps it was this trust that made Marcus so unguarded with me. The chat logs revealed his undisguised intimacy and flirtation with a young girl. The girl's name was Chloe, a new intern at the company. Marcus had her saved as Chloe. The girl petulantly complained about her commute time from her rental apartment to the company, so Marcus grandly arranged for her to rent a suite near the company. In the extremely valuable city center, he would accompany Chloe to furniture stores, furnishing the new apartment completely. Pink sheets, a bright yellow couch, even the kitchen dishes, gradually building their sweet, exclusive love nest. My finger grew increasingly weak as I scrolled down the chat history. Before came home, Chloe had sent him a photo. Around her slender collarbone was a pink topaz necklace. "I like pink, only old women wear tacky blue tourmaline." Marcus replied, "Yes, either most delicate, even more enchanting than pink topaz." I suddenly clutched the blue tourmaline necklace hanging before my collarbone. It felt as if I had fallen into the deep sea, suffocating and in agony. Tears dripped onto the screen. I wiped them away with trembling eyelashes, bit my lip, and continued scrolling down. It turned out that half a year ago, Marcus had also accompanied Chloe on a trip to Paris. Hand in hand, they carved "I love you" in Chinese in a small park halfway up Skyline Park. Their last chat record stopped just before bedtime, with Chloe's discontented questioning, "When are you going to tell that old woman about the divorce? I don't like sharing you. The thought of you being with her just like you with me makes me sick." Marcus' reply was only 9 short words. "I will handle this as quickly as possible." Chloe sent a sad puppy emoji, and Marcus replied with a puppy night. I looked at the cute emojis and only felt sorrow. When had the steady Marcus started using such cute emojis? Marcus sent Chloe a 33-second voice message. I converted it to text and read it carefully. Chloe, don't be unhappy, I love you, and of course, I belong to you, we'll have countless futures together, so don't mind the current obstacles, I'll overcome everything to be with you. Even without listening to the voice message, I could imagine how tender and loving Marcus' voice was. I just couldn't understand why someone who once loved me so deeply could change their heart so completely. I love you, I will overcome all difficulties to be with you. Marcus had said those exact words to me before. When exactly did I become an obstacle to Marcus' love? Marcus and I met 10 years ago. Julian returned to Metropolis City from France. While I was hosting a welcome dinner for him at the bistro, a drunk man accosted me. It was Marcus, then a waiter, who instantly pushed the drunkard away and shielded me. To express my gratitude, I offered him a tip, but Marcus refused. The young man's dark eyes were fixed on me, filled with undisguised admiration and affection. Could I have your contact information? He asked. At that time, I was the family's cherished gem, with eyes sparkling like water and eyebrows graceful as distant mountains. Being pursued was a natural occurrence for me, so I was well versed in handling suitors. I let out a soft laugh, and shook my head at the young man in front of me. Big sister doesn't like little boys, you know. A warm hand gently rested on my waist. Julian, who had just gotten off the plane, looked tired but still offered me a gentle smile. Grace is always so popular, isn't she? I raised an eyebrow, a smug expression on my face, as Julian put his arm around me, and led me towards the private room. Marcus suddenly called out to me from behind. I turned back, puzzled. His voice was low. My name is Marcus. We'll meet again. I merely dismissed it as a young man's jest, waving my hand dismissively. But sure enough, Marcus continued to appear in my life. The third time I ran into Marcus during a sketching session, I gave the persistent young man my contact information. That evening, Marcus messaged me, Grace, you suddenly appeared in my life, like a beautiful dream. I raised an eyebrow in amusement, compelled to tell the fervent young man about the difference between us. I am 7 years older than you. I've already graduated from college, and is still in high school. Marcus replied swiftly, I don't care, what if he's 7 years older than me? I'll overcome all obstacles to be with you. I frowned, unsure how to persuade the young man. Julian amusingly stroked my face, leaving a warm kiss on it. His breath brushed against my bare neck, sending a fine tingle through me. His voice was gentle and low. What should I do if my fiancé is too popular? Julian's kiss was lingering, and my heart pounded. Unconsciously, I dropped my phone, and with it, the fervent Marcus faded from my mind. Because of this, Marcus always held a grudge against Julian. His dark eyes carefully scrutinized my red lips, and the side of my neck. His voice annoyed. He kissed you. I casually drew a blooming red peony on my sketch pad, my voice calm. Isn't it normal for an engaged couple to kiss? Julian and I were childhood sweethearts. He was steady and incredibly gentle with me, so our engagement was a natural progression. At that time, I thought we would be together forever. As for Marcus, I simply saw him as a persistent younger brother. Later, Julian was diagnosed with bone cancer, and his surgery in France failed. When my world crumbled, it was Marcus who stubbornly stayed by my side. He truly did as he said, overcoming all obstacles to come to my side. I had been immersed in sorrow for so long that even a glimmer of light felt like salvation, and I came to believe in Marcus' love. Despite my parents' disapproval and my friends' lack of understanding, I resolutely accepted Marcus' proposal, quit my job, and became Mrs. Hayes, living in his villa. But now, I had become an obstacle to Marcus' pursuit of love. Marcus never brought up the topic of divorce with me. Chloe couldn't restrain herself, and came to my door. Ms. Grace, in a failed marriage, a graceful person should learn to let go, and give each other a new start. I silently looked at the girl before me, her eyes lively and her expression vibrant, and asked, perplexed, Ms. Chloe, did your basic moral education not teach you about propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame? Chloe's face fell, and her voice turned slightly sharp. The one who isn't loved is the mistress. He's 7 years older than Marcus, and he's still in the prime of his youth, yet he has to face an old woman like you every day. Chloe's gaze grew increasingly scornful, and she proudly tilted her head. If I were you, I would have already stepped aside gracefully. I lowered my eyelashes and calmly said, oh, does know you came here to provoke me today. If he truly wants a divorce, why doesn't he tell me himself? Chloe impatiently rolled her eyes. Marcus is just sentimental and can't bring himself to do it. You don't actually think he has any lingering affection for an old woman like you, do you? I carefully studied Chloe's features and let out a soft laugh. Is that so? Ms. Chloe, when you look in the mirror, don't you feel confused? Your face resembles mine by 70%. Do you think Marcus looks at you, or is he looking at the past me? Chloe's face darkened for a moment at my words, but quickly regained its composure. She expressionlessly pulled out her phone and flipped through her photo album, displaying each picture in front of me. There were photos of Marcus frowning, Marcus smiling faintly, and even Marcus cooking. Finally, she opened an hour-long video. A stern-faced Marcus was leaning close to a semi-naked, smooth shoulder and arm, his expression tender, his voice husky as he called out, "Chloe." Chloe's voice was triumphant. "Did you hear clearly?" Marcus called out Chloe, not Grace. I remained silent. Marcus' lovesick murmurs were like sharp swords, mercilessly piercing my chest. Chloe sneered and leaned closer to me, disdainfully fanning her nose with her hand. Her tone exaggerated. "Ms. Grace, Marcus says you have an old person smell. In the 3rd year of our marriage, Marcus and I started sleeping in separate beds. There had long been no intimate gestures between us. Even when I asked for a goodnight kiss, Marcus would impatiently turn his head away. It turned out he simply had no passion for me. Marcus found me old." I tightly clenched my hands. My entire world collapsed, as if I had returned to the night I learned of Julian's failed surgery. It wasn't that I wanted to cling to Marcus. I just couldn't understand why people's hearts changed so quickly, why they couldn't remain steadfast. The moment I learned Marcus had cheated, I started thinking about divorce. I was just waiting for Marcus to admit he'd fallen for someone else, waiting for him to tell me how foolish I was for severing ties with my parents and friends for his sake. My gaze refocused on the lovesick Marcus in the video. I spoke coldly. "The matters between Marcus and me do not require anyone else's interference. Ms. Chloe, you may leave." Chloe's impatience was mixed with shock and anger. She pushed me, saying, "Even like this, you're not going to let Marcus go. You damned old woman." Chloe pushed me down the spiral staircase. Red blood continuously gushed from my lower body. The last thing I saw before losing consciousness was Chloe's panicked expression. When I woke up in the hospital, Marcus was sitting calmly by the bedside, his eyelashes lowered, carefully dabbing water onto my dry lips with a cotton swab. "You know everything." I remained silent, unable to comprehend how Marcus could speak of his infidelity so calmly and nonchalantly. He reached out and wiped away the water droplets spilling from my lips, his voice calm. "It'll keep her in line. She won't bother you at home again." I lowered my eyelashes, looking at the blue and white striped hospital gown I was wearing, and interrupted Marcus. "We lost a child. When I married Marcus, his career had just begun to stabilize, and it wasn't a suitable time for children. To avoid any unexpected pregnancies, I had secretly been taking birth control pills. Later, I took too many birth control pills, which destabilized my hormone levels. My monthly periods became like torture, as if someone was stirring a knife inside my stomach." Marcus accompanied me to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor said I had taken too much medication, and it would be very difficult for me to conceive again. That night, Marcus silently held me, pressing his face against my stomach, his voice low. "Grace, let's have the surgery." The doctor suggested using medication to stimulate ovulation while also performing laparoscopic surgery to aid conception. My palms were tightly clasped, a bitter ache lingering in my heart. I had an exceptionally sensitive pain threshold. Even an insect bite would cause a burning, stinging pain. Marcus knew this, yet I lowered my eyelashes, looking at him hopefully. "I am scared of pain. Can we not have the surgery?" Marcus' dark eyes fixed on me, but his voice was firm. "Grace, I want to have a child with you." And so, I, who disliked taking medicine the most, had to take countless pills every day and go to the hospital for examinations, checking my fallopian tubes, my polycystic ovaries, my uterine environment. When I stripped naked and lay on the cold examination table, I felt less like a living person. To conceive, I had become a mere vessel, and because the vessel had issues, it needed constant checking and repairing, but was very busy then. Each time, I went to the hospital alone, repeating the cycle of medication and examinations. When I broke down crying at night, Marcus would calmly watch me. Finally, he would pull me into his arms, his voice filled with helplessness. Grace, be good. The child I had struggled for 2 years to conceive was easily aborted by Marcus' mistress. I shifted my gaze to Marcus, carefully scrutinizing the calm-faced man sitting by the bedside. Suddenly, he felt so foreign, so unfamiliar that I barely recognized him. Marcus paused for a moment, then leaned in as if to embrace me, but I gently avoided him. His voice was somewhat low. We'll have many more children in the future. But what made Marcus think I would still stay by his side? I am human too. I feel pain. And I also want to reclaim my dignity, even if there's little left. I gently lowered my eyelashes and said earnestly, word by word, Marcus, let's get a divorce. Marcus said nothing, merely staring at me intently. I gave an indifferent chuckle, recounting the efforts I had made over the years for this ridiculous marriage. I learned baking for you, burning my hands with blisters to make cakes. But on the day the cake was ready, you and Chloe were at the park in Skyline Park, carving I love you onto a wall while I was wishing you a happy birthday. To salvage this failing marriage, I had made many efforts. In the first month Marcus and I started sleeping in separate rooms. I began to get more aesthetic treatments and maintenance, choosing sexy nightgowns, and in the evening, I would climb into Marcus' bed, enduring the shame. After scrutinized me from head to toe, he calmly pointed to the laptop on the bed, his voice indifferent. Sorry, I still have some work to take care of. Under that indifferent gaze, I blushed and awkwardly fled. Later, I locked myself in the closet for an entire night, unable to understand when my marriage with Marcus had started to become so distant. The next day, Marcus opened the closet and carried me out. He said nothing, and later, we started sleeping in the same bed again, every night. Looking at Marcus' back, I felt it was a kind of charity, a condescending handout from him. It wasn't until I watched Chloe's video that I realized Marcus hadn't become cold. It was just that the person who captivated him wasn't me. A rotten marriage is like a luxurious robe crawling with lice. I no longer wanted it, and I no longer wanted Marcus either. When refused the divorce proposal, I had my lawyer draft the divorce agreement and send it to Marcus' company. That evening, Marcus, who hadn't been home in a long time, returned to the villa with a grim expression. Grace, don't use this method to get my attention. I don't like it. I told you I'd handle Chloe. There won't be any more incidents like this. If you want children, well, still have them later. I have many things to deal with every day, and no time to cater to your petty emotions. Marcus actually thought I was trying to win him back by using divorce as a tactic. I looked indifferently at the gloomy-eyed man before me. There was no bitter pain in my heart, only the calmness that comes after complete disillusionment. I'll have my lawyer draw up a detailed plan for the asset division. The estate and the city villa will be mine. I'll take 30% of the company's shares, and if you need, I can sell them to you at market price. Marcus frowned, reached up, and pulled off his tie, an impatient expression on his face. I won't divorce you. I admit I might have neglected you recently, but that doesn't mean I'll abandon you. Grace, what exactly are you trying to do? Marcus was clearly the one who had cheated first, yet he could righteously demand to know what I was trying to do. I raised my eyes and stared fixedly at Marcus, letting out a soft laugh. All right, I can stay married, but deliberate assault led to my miscarriage. I want you, as my husband, to pursue legal action against her. Marcus, however, avoided my gaze. She's still young. It was just an impulsive act. Can't you be a little more magnanimous? In that moment, my last shred of hope for Marcus vanished. I suddenly realized that I no longer felt pain or grievance because of Marcus' words. I didn't love him anymore, nor did I seem to hate him. I simply wanted to leave him. Even looking at him for another moment made me feel utterly disgusted. Marcus, I gave you a chance. If you don't agree to a divorce, I'll file a lawsuit. Then, the video of you and Chloe will be presented as evidence, and everyone will know about the scandalous affair between the CEO of Hayes and his intern. Marcus' face was filled with disbelief. He strode across the sofa, grabbed my wrist, and asked in a cold, sharp voice, "What did you say?" I lowered my eyelashes and coldly repeated, "If you don't agree to a divorce, I'll file a lawsuit, and then everyone will see you and close." Before I could finish, Marcus grabbed my neck and kissed me fiercely. I pushed him away in disgust, but Marcus was relentless. Eventually, A coppery, sweet taste filled both our mouths. Marcus' voice was chilling. "Grace, I will not divorce you." I frowned in disgust, wiping away the lingering presence of Marcus on my lips. I truly couldn't understand Marcus' reasoning. Since he found me old and had a new lover, why wouldn't he naturally sign the divorce agreement? However, I no longer cared about Marcus' thoughts. All I wanted now was to leave Marcus. I copied the video of Chloe pushing me down the stairs and sent it to the police station along with my hospital diagnosis. That very day, Chloe was taken from the company by the police for investigation on charges of provoking trouble and intentional assault. If I refused to settle, Chloe would face imprisonment, detention, or surveillance for up to 3 years. Even if Marcus found a lawyer to reduce her sentence or get her parole, she would still have a criminal record. Even if Marcus agreed to a divorce, and I signed a letter of understanding to settle, Chloe's actions would still become public knowledge, following her for life. She was young, but her life was already ruined. Public humiliation and social ruin were her deserved retribution. I sat in the hall, indifferently watching Chloe's expression shift from bewilderment to panic. She looked up, glaring at me fiercely. "Marcus won't abandon me." She was confident Marcus had the power to get her released from the police station. The officer taking notes was a young woman, who had already discerned the truth from the surveillance footage and conversations. Thus, when Chloe snarled fiercely, she slapped the table with her palm, her voice stern. "Silence." Chloe quieted down, cast a cold glance at me, then restrained her voice and muttered, "I didn't do it on purpose. You just lost your balance and fell, and now you're framing me. Marcus will find me the best lawyer." I remained silent, waiting for Marcus' decision, agree to a divorce, or watch Chloe be detained. Soon, Marcus received the notification and arrived at the police station. Chloe's eyes suddenly lit up, and she joyfully called out Marcus' name, drawing the attention of the officers. Marcus, however, didn't look at her. He walked up to me, his face weary, his dark eyes fixed on me, his voice a little hoarse. "Why do you insist on a divorce?" I lowered my eyelashes, saying nothing. Marcus' face broke into a smile, his eyelashes trembling as if he were about to cry. Finally, he spoke. "I am willing to sign the divorce agreement. All the properties and savings under my name will be yours. As compensation for you." I silently signed the letter of understanding and was about to leave the police station, but Marcus suddenly called out to me. I turned back indifferently. In the twilight, Marcus' eyes were red at the corners, and he asked me, his expression pained, "Grace, have you never forgotten Julian?" Julian's death became a taboo between Marcus and me. At first, I couldn't bring myself to say Julian's name. The thought of him brought an unbearable ache to my heart. Later, time healed the pain, and I could face Julian's passing calmly, but Marcus wouldn't allow his name to be uttered by me. Whenever I accidentally mentioned Julian, Marcus would torment me with a cold, severe expression. He would relentlessly tease me while forcing me to call his name. After that, I didn't dare mention Julian again, but Julian still remained Marcus' unresolved issue. Now, looking at the man whose eyes were filled with pain in the dim twilight, I lowered my eyelashes and answered him earnestly, "Yes." Not for a moment. With that, I turned and left, never looking back. After divorcing Marcus, I moved out of the villa, although had given me all the properties under his name. Everything in the villa reminded me of the utterly disgusting relationship and failed marriage I had endured. During my move out of the villa, Marcus' assistant kept reporting Chloe's situation to me. The news that Chloe had interfered in someone else's marriage and almost been detained became common knowledge throughout the company. Chloe was refused entry by the CEO's office staff. Chloe's internship was not passed. She was not hired. Chloe left Hayes crying, carrying a box. Marcus worked overtime for several days straight, and his gastric issues flared up. Marcus placed a wedding photo on his desk. The assistant said I was a shareholder of Hayes and that it was his duty to inform me of the company's decisions. I calmly blocked Marcus' assistant's contact number. I didn't care at all about Chloe and Marcus' current situation, no matter how they were doing. It had nothing to do with me anymore. On the third day after blocking the assistant's WhatsApp, Marcus himself came to my door. He leaned against the door, his shirt wrinkled, his lips pale, his entire being exuded an air of despondency. Chloe's probation wasn't satisfactory, and she's been dismissed from the company. I said nothing. Marcus finally looked up at me, his eyelashes damp. "Grace, can we start over?" Meeting's hopeful gaze. I gently shook my head. "Marcus, I have a strong aversion to uncleanliness. At my words, his eyes suddenly reddened, yet he stubbornly pressed against the doorframe, preventing me from closing the door. I looked impatiently at Marcus. He bit his lip as if having made some kind of decision, and asked with a choked voice, "What will it take for you to forgive me?" I let my gaze linger on Marcus, inch by inch, observing his dull eyes and pale lips. Only when Marcus awkwardly lowered his head did I answer him earnestly, word for word. "Marcus, I find you unclean." At my words, Marcus seemed to have all the spirit drained from him. He staggered back a step, his eyes red-rimmed, and asked pitifully, "Did you never love me? Was always the one in your heart?" Before I could answer, Marcus let out a self-mocking chuckle. "You desperately want a divorce and moved out of the villa. That's also for Julian, isn't it?" Marcus' eyes were bloodshot, and his voice held both grievance and anger. "This marriage and I were just tools, for you to alleviate the pain of Julian's passing. Grace, you never loved me." After hearing Marcus' words, there was no anger or grievance in my heart, only a profound sadness. I had made so many efforts and sacrifices to maintain this marriage, to make Marcus happy, but now that this marriage had reached its end, Marcus still had to ask if I had never loved him, implying that was why I could so easily abandon this marriage, and him along with it. Marcus was the one who cheated, yet I was the one being accused. I gripped the doorknob and spoke calmly. "Yes, I loved Julian, from beginning to end. I never loved you. You were just a tool for me to forget Julian." I looked up at Marcus, whose eyes were bloodshot and whose expression was pained. "So, can you leave now?" Marcus stumbled back a step, and I took the opportunity to close the door. I thought a proud man like Marcus wouldn't come back after being humiliated by being treated as a substitute, but the next day, Marcus was again blocking the entrance to my apartment, as if nothing had happened. The disgust and impatience in my heart were practically overflowing. I spoke with extreme harshness. "Are you sick? If he's sick, go get treatment. Don't pretend to be affectionate here. I find it sickening." Marcus' eyes reddened from my words, but he still pretended to be calm as he spoke. "Grace, you can continue to treat me as Julian, as long as you're willing to forgive me. It doesn't matter if you see me as a substitute, as long as you stay by my side." It was the first time I had seen Marcus so humble, and I was genuinely bewildered. He was the one who cheated, and he was also the one pretending to be affectionate. What exactly did he want? As if knowing my thoughts, Marcus said in a low voice, "You only agreed to be with me after Julian died. I was afraid you couldn't forget him, afraid you just saw me as a substitute. That's why I deliberately neglected you after we married, wanting to prove that I was actually the one you loved." Marcus said Chloe was like me at 20. At 20, Julian was the only one in my heart and eyes, but, at 20, adored only Marcus. He said Chloe's appearance filled a void. Just to prove my love, Marcus deliberately neglected me for these 5 years of marriage, watching me suffer, making me take endless pills and undergo examinations to fulfill his desire for a child. He did all these things to hurt me, yet he claimed it was because he loved me too much, and thus often felt insecure, afraid he couldn't measure up to Julian. I burst into laughter upon hearing him, laughing until tears streamed down my face, and my heart ached. Marcus, his eyes red, reached out to wipe away my tears, but I slapped his hand away in disgust, thinking of all the pain I had endured over the years because of Marcus' suspicions. A malicious thought suddenly blossomed in my mind. Laughing, I wiped away my own tears, looking directly at Marcus, whose face showed immense pain. My voice was cold as I spoke. "You want me to forgive you, don't you?" At my words, Marcus' dim pupils suddenly lit up with a spark of hope, and he stared intently at me. I gently curved my lips, my voice faint and distant. "As long as you can become Julian, I will forgive you. You know, I love Julian." Facing's face, I can't feel any hatred at all. Marcus clenched his fingers, veins bulging on the back of his hands, his eyes red. He said nothing. I spoke coldly. "If you can't do it, then get out. Don't bother me again." Just as I was about to close the door, Marcus finally, his voice hoarse, quietly agreed. "Okay." Marcus looked up, his eyes red at the corners, and carefully confirmed with me, "As long as I become Julian, you forgive me, right?" Only after I nodded did Marcus turn and leave. I never saw Marcus after he underwent surgery to look like Julian. On his way back from the apartment, Marcus was in a car accident. His black Lincoln was pushed by a tanker truck, and plunged off the overpass. After died, his lawyer contacted me with his will. Before his death, Marcus had drawn up a will, making me the sole heir to his property. After I signed all the documents, the lawyer quietly offered his condolences. I remained silent. In truth, after learning of Marcus' death, I felt nothing at all. I had completely let go of Marcus, feeling neither love nor hatred.